In today's video, we're going to be talking about Black Moon Lilith and what Black Moon Lilith represents in the birth chart.
Hi, I'm Charlie Starr. The video you are about to watch is part of my free course, How to Read a Birth Chart. And now, back to this video.
Hey guys, welcome back. We're going to start out by talking about what is Black Moon Lilith in astronomical terms. Then we'll take a look at the mythology behind Black Moon Lilith. And finally, we will apply both of those things to interpret the meaning of Black Moon Lilith in your own birth chart. And lastly, I'll be using a couple examples. Astronomically, Black Moon Lilith is relatively simple. All it is the point at which the moon's orbit around the Earth is farthest away from the Earth. This is not to be confused with the asteroid Lilith. There is an asteroid that's named Lilith. It does not generally show up on birth chart calculations unless you specialize and filter for it. But what you will see generally popping up is this little symbol right here. This is the Black Moon Lilith symbol. And what this represents is the farthest point at which the moon's orbit around the Earth is away from the Earth. The furthest point that the moon's orbit is away from the Earth at the moment that you were born, that is the point of Black Moon Lilith. Mythology of Lilith is related to the biblical story of Adam and Eve, but it's not going to be found in the Bible. It is Jewish folklore. Lilith is the first wife of Adam. Before Eve was created, God made Adam and Lilith both out of the dust of the earth together. So the story goes is that Adam wanted to dominate Lilith and rule over on top of her. Lilith didn't want that. Lilith wanted equality. Lilith wanted integration and collaboration. Because of this disagreement with Adam, Lilith left the garden. So Adam was left without his wife. Adam complained to God and said, my wife left me. And so God sent his angels after Lilith and found that Lilith was in the ocean mating with demons. They told Lilith that she had to return to Adam or they would kill her babies. Lilith refused. The angels killed her babies, and then Lilith still refused, and so Eve was created out of the rib of Adam, and so the story goes with Adam and Eve. Some legends claim that Lilith is the snake who is the temptress that offers Eve her intuition, the knowledge of good and evil, the fruit of a different option other than subservience to Adam in the garden. But from that story, Jews for a long time, I'm not sure if this is still a thing, but for a long time, they were afraid of Black Lilith's revenge on humankind for what the angels did to Lilith's children. The thought was that Lilith was going to revenge her grievance by killing the children of Adam, which would be all of humanity. Sudden infant death syndrome was blamed on Black Moon Lilith, and she became associated with demons and with witches. So what does this mean in the birth chart? What is Black Moon Lilith representing inside of you? Lilith wanted integration, equal integration of the feminine and the masculine attributes. This is not what happened. Our society rejected this model for gender and instead adapted a patriarchal system and a system that marks a very distinctive role between a man and between a woman, and the man rules over the woman in this patriarchal system. Okay? So if we are going to apply this in psychological terms to a person's birth chart, we have to ask the question, what has run away from you? What part of you has fled because it was not socially acceptable for you to have that part of yourself given the gender identity that was assigned to you at birth. It's going to be different based on whether you're assigned male, whether you're assigned female, and how you internalized these messages of what was or was not acceptable for you to be or express yourself as because of your assigned gender. You guys, this is not just an issue for women. This is an issue for men. This is an issue for non-binary people. This is an issue for everybody because everybody is impacted by the divorce of our femininity and our masculinity. Femininity and masculinity, these qualities, these energies, these attributes, however you want to describe it, they are in all of us. And when we're assigned a particular role in society based on what society says our role is, and furthermore, we have created, according to the story of Adam and Eve, with Adam ruling over his wife, we have created a power imbalance. And if you are only supposed to be only masculine and only expressing yourself in this masculine way, there's going to be a part of you that has fled the scene because it has not been acceptable for you to be those things. And the same is true for if you're assigned woman at birth. There's going to be things about yourself that you're told that you can't be or you can't express yourself as. Where has that loss happened? Where has that divorce within yourself occurred because of assigning yourself to a particular energy and a society telling you that you can only be this or be that? This is obviously going to look different for different people. It's going to have a different expression based on who you are and, like I said, how you've internalized these messages and where you've most felt them. That's where you're going to start to see Black Lilith, what house Black Lilith is in. This is the house where you've most experienced this divorce of gender attributes and gender expressions. This is where you've been told that you can't, and that part of you has fled. What sign it is going to describe how that energy is experienced for you, and also can indicate some of the topics and qualities that have become taboo for you. Also, we can take into account what is aspecting Black Moon Lilith. And furthermore, we can make some sets of generalizations based on whether that person was assigned male at birth or assigned female at birth and how they identify now. These things are going to have an impact on how this energy is, again, experienced and felt. And also, what is this person's sexual orientation? Sexual orientation might have something to do with it, with how this is expressed as well, right? Okay, so this is a common path for this to take. If you're assigned male at birth, then this creates essentially a vacuum because men are expected to earn their status as a man. It's not something taken for granted. It's not automatic that every boy becomes a man. It's constantly being questioned for boys. Like, if you're a man, then you're going to do this and this. A real man, blah, 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 blah. There's a lot of pressure that's put on boys to prove their man status. So a lot of the time, this gender division is extremely divorced. This part of themselves is long gone, never to be retrieved sometimes, and it's going to be buried very deeply into the subconscious. When that happens, it creates a vacuum for that part of themselves, that life that they never really got to live because this part of them had to flee and had to be repressed and had to go into the dark subconscious areas of their life. So this is where the astronomy of Black Moon Lilith plays a role in interpreting what's being represented here, because if this is the point at which the moon is furthest away from the earth, it's talking about what is most deeply ingrained into the subconscious, what has fled into the subconscious because it was not allowed to be exposed to the light. And what this does for a lot of people assigned male at birth is this vacuum ends up creating the type of person, generally the type of woman, but not necessarily, but the type of person that they are attracted to mate with, because they're looking for wholeness but because it's been outsourced and not been allowed to be part of their identity, it becomes the characteristics of the person that they are attracted to. Generally, because gender is involved here, it becomes the type of woman that they're attracted to. So often in a man's chart, even if they're not assigned male at birth, if they identify as a man, in a man's chart, how they have internalized that definition of what it means to be a man, their Black Moon Lilith is going to indicate what type of person is irresistible for them, that they are drawn to, like heroin, that they, I had heard one astrologer say that this represented in the chart a woman that the man cannot resist. And it doesn't matter if they come to her for a compatibility reading, when she sees that the woman that he's with or inquiring about is heavily aspected in towards his Black Moon Lilith and his chart, she says it doesn't matter what she says, because the relationship is going to happen, because it's something that is subconsciously driven, and no sorts of logic about whether this person is a good match for you or not is even going to have enough strength to resist the situation. This can also impact how you treat this person. If these attributes have been outsourced to a partner, then your relationship to those attributes is going to play a huge role in how you treat that person. For example, if the attributes that you consider feminine are less than, and there is maybe bitterness that you have on some level recognized those things in yourself, but hate those things in yourself, if you have inner hatred or inner bitterness about this, that's going to express itself in how you treat that person. If you think that femininity is something that doesn't deserve respect, you're probably not going to treat your feminine partner with respect. So it can play out that way as well. It all depends. Now, if you identify as a woman, a lot of the time where we have Black Moon Lilith has to do with describing where our deepest wound in regard to our social identity as a woman has hit us. So this is going to be an area that is painful, that stirs up a lot of anger about the situation, about the injustice of it, right? Black Moon Lilith, the story of Lilith in the mythology, is she was at least feared because of the fear of her getting vengeance. The angels killed her children, and because they had done her so wrong, they feared her retaliation. And we see this with the patriarch fearing the power of women and trying to hold the women down and controlling them because of the fear that they are going to retaliate, that they're going to backlash, that they are going to treat the men the way that they have been treated, right? So we can see this when one gender has asserted dominance and superiority over the other. Integration is so difficult. So, like I said, if you identify as a woman, then this often has to do with where you're told that you cannot access yourself or parts of yourself because you're a woman. Your relationship to this may be that this area you have the most empathy when it comes to feminist issues, or if you have rejected this so thoroughly, this may be an area where you are actually preaching the gender role and agreeing with that women shouldn't be able to or can't or aren't qualified for XYZ. It's kind of like the gay pastor who's closeted gay that's constantly preaching against homosexuality. It can express that way, where you are becoming the one that is making an issue of this because you're fighting it so hard on the inside. For people that are non-binary or gender fluid, a lot of the time these issues have impacted them as well, but the stories are obviously going to be more unique to their situation, and it's unique to the situation of women and women and men identifying people as well. But I'm just trying to give you some examples of how this can express itself based on the identities of the people experiencing this in their chart. For my examples, I'm actually going to share my own Black Moon Lilith placement, and then for my next example, I'm going to share what I found to be a very interesting chart pattern between two famous people, and I'll explain to you how I've seen that play out in their lives. Okay, to start off with my Black Moon Lilith placement, I have Black Moon Lilith in the 9th house in Scorpio. I grew up as a woman, and the first thing that I really wanted to do was be a pastor because I was so interested in the spiritual world. I had a lot of psychic experiences as a child, and I heavily internalized the religion that I grew up in. It was a very religious household, and we were homeschooled, so I was like heavily exposed to it and not exposed to anything else. And I was told that I couldn't be, not only could I not be a pastor, but I couldn't be a leader, it couldn't be a deacon, it couldn't be an elder, and furthermore, men were supposed to be the spiritual leaders. So that was a very painful experience to me. It also had to do with power. So it was definitely presented to me in a power dynamic that men were supposed to have power over women, that was naturally the way that it was supposed to be. Power is definitely something that has to do with the sign of Scorpio. The 9th house would have to do with talking about religion. This is called the house of God. Leadership in the form of teachers, which was what I wanted to be, right? I wanted to be a religious teacher, and I was told that I couldn't be, and I also couldn't be in any position of authority or power because I was a woman. So this is where I experienced my Black Moon Lilith. When I eventually got married within the religion, this caused a lot of problems in my relationship because I expected my partner, just like I was talking about men outsourcing this to their women that they're attracted to, I expected my husband to be the spiritual leader that I wanted to be, and I would get frustrated and dissatisfied with him because he wasn't expressing what I felt like I wanted to express that I couldn't express. Okay, the next example that I wanted to share with you is a chart pattern that I found between two famous people. Both of them have Black Moon Lilith in Sagittarius in the 4th house, and they also have their South Node and also their moon also in Sagittarius near their Black Moon Lilith in the 4th house. Both of these men, if you look at Black Moon Lilith and Sagittarius, Sagittarius is the sign of the teacher. It's the sign of higher knowledge. So if you are a man, which both of these people are men, then when you have Black Moon Lilith in Sagittarius, there's something about Sagittarius that to you is outsourced. And if you feel threatened as a man, you're going to feel threatened by women in Sagittarius positions. Okay, so the first person who has this chart is Donald Trump, and I have noticed that he particularly attacks women and is particularly threatened by educated women because Sagittarius is the sign of education and the sign of teachers. So he's particularly threatened by women who have some type of higher knowledge. And also he is types of Sagittarius things to attack women, which I think is interesting. I'm not going to mention specific quotes because they're offensive, but he did at one point call a woman a horse face. He also makes a lot of slew comments about women's hips and women's curves, which are things that are Sagittarius actually, because the centaur is the animal that represents the Sagittarius. So Sagittarius has an association with horses, and Sagittarius also has an association in medical astrology with the hips. And those are the areas that Donald Trump has targeted to attack women that he feels threatened by. Another thing that he'll say a lot is like attacking women who are being successful in politics because he's threatened essentially by their knowledge, by their power, And this is an area that's very personal to him because he also has his south node and his moon in Sagittarius. The second person who has their Black Moon Lilith in Sagittarius, and as well their south node and their moon in Sagittarius, is Ted Bundy. So Ted Bundy, as I'm sure many of you know, was a serial killer who killed many women, and the women that he targeted had two defining characteristics. One was that they had long hair, which I think is, to me, it also seems very Sagittarius, because like horses are a creature known to have like long, like beautiful manes, like their tails and their manes is like this long hair, and it's seen as something that is beautiful. So he targeted women with long hair, and he also targeted women in college. So once again, Ted Bundy being threatened, but also attracted to women in this Sagittarius association of higher education and knowledge. So not all cases are going to have these like massively toxic expressions, but this is an area, Black Moon Lilith, this is an area of something that has been like heavily repressed, and it's also something that we've experienced and is expressing a high level of injustice, which provokes a level of revenge, a level of anger and retaliation and fear. Okay, there's a lot of those themes going on in the story of Black Moon Lilith. Let me know in the comments below, where is your Black Moon Lilith? And if you feel comfortable sharing, how do you think that has impacted you? Thanks for watching. Next time we'll be talking about Chiron. What does the asteroid Chiron represent in your birth chart?